Hello and welcome to this conversation. I am here this morning with Carolin Hauser, who I met. Oh gosh, when did I meet you through Living the Off-Grid Dream? Was it 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
I Carolyn came into my world when I started doing research on how to begin thinking about creating a regenerative off-grid land project, which is still a dream of mine. And she has had a lot of success with that. So maybe we'll hear a little bit about that today. But shortly after I met Carolyn and got involved in actually investing in one of the ecodomes on their property, I also learned that she's deep in the work of transformation and to me, honestly, regenerative land projects and human evolution are like parallel processes. I don't see how you couldn't be into both of them, but just really was fascinated by her history, like mine, of diving into different systems and systems that are ancient and also modern in working with our nervous system, our energy, and mastering energy, and listening to a wider field than our logical brain and these deeper, older, more expansive ways of getting information and transmitting information and expanding really beyond the confines of what we believe is possible. And so I've also worked with Carolyn in the realm of relationships because she really loves to support people in finding their sacred partner. And I've also learned that she likes to work with groups doing family constellations work. And hopefully we'll hear at some point something about the way that she has morphed that into her own thing as well, which is something I find in a lot of us doing this transformation work is we really know how to absorb something and then also be that next level metamorphosis that like takes it into something brand new. So thank you for being here this morning, Carolyn. And maybe could you start off by sharing with the community listening, um, why, why, why is this so important? I mean, it's always been important, but why now in particular? And maybe you speak about this from a personal place of your own passion, but also like I think you also think in these larger terms like me and systems. Like, why is now such an important time for us to be conscious in our transformational mastery? And where does that passion come from for you as well in your journey?
Really good question. Well, I'll start with a little bit of my story, which is that I actually have a memory of coming from a place that was peaceful and people got along and it seemed very simple. Like it didn't seem
Mm,
complicated. That's one. And then also I have another memory of being up in heaven and being like, it was like being in a kindergarten with like little chairs and little tables, and I was sitting at the little chair at the little table with other little people. And God or a voice or what I call God came down to us into heaven and said, people on earth are really struggling. They need help. And my hand just raised itself automatically. Now sometimes I'm like, why did I do that? But I have a memory of that. And then I was born.
wow, I love that. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, keep going. Yes.
And I was born into a family where there was a lot of goodness, but then also because, so I'm from Germany. And I was born into a family that is mostly German, but had been living in what's now kind of like Serbia, Croatia, um, Hungary, that territory. So when the Second World War broke out, they were Germans living there, and they were all getting along. It was great. It's like imagine Mexicans being here in the United States, Mexico declaring war, and then we're taking all the Mexicans as hostages, basically, right? So that happened to my ancestors, which wasn't that long ago. And it's a
Mm,
story that most people don't know because we all know about what happened to Jews and in concentration camps, but there actually were concentration camps for Germans that were in these Eastern European countries. So my
mhm,
grandparents
mhm,
grew up in those camps for a long period of time. And then
mm.
my grandparents are the parents to my parents. So my parents were parented by people that had had a lot of trauma, and then there was me, you know. So my grandparents and my parents really tried, and there's like I said, there's a lot of good things. I was very privileged. I went to Waldorf school from basically kindergarten on, so I never went to public school. I grew up pretty much without television. We got to watch television a little bit on the weekends. So part of why I feel now is so important is because my generation is probably the last generation that grew up in kind of like a way that I would say is healthy for the human nervous system and brain and soul and everything.
Mm,
When you look at
mm,
how children grow up today, and everybody has to function
mm.
today with the technology, the media, the information overload, and the constant anxiety, where I feel like people are stifled and they wouldn't even know how to survive anymore. Like people they don't know how to grow stuff, they don't know how to be with each other, they don't know. And for us as a species to survive, we need to know those things.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm curious too, as you reflect on the fact that you were blessed with having access to some of these systems that were more holistic. How would you define the gap between what you were experiencing and what you saw the majority of people lacking? Like, what was the missing element or essence that was, yeah, like to bridge the gap between, yeah, what you were experiencing and what you saw other people missing?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, with these. I I don't know quite yet. I do know that part of it is like I am not a gardener. I am not a builder. I am not a farmer. I am not, I'm not a herbalist. I'm none of those things. And I feel like I need to challenge myself to
Mm,
uh and I'm also not somebody who spends ton of time physically working, right? Because I
hmm.
work with clients. So I feel like the gap is each of us have to change our mindset and get physically into shape and learn some of these basic skills.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
I'm challenging myself. I'm always trying to lead by example.
yeah.
So the last
I
couple,
will declare too, one time we had a session and you were in the middle of a workshop, but learning how to build an aircrete dome. And where were you? Costa Rica, or, I think, or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You had just like, you were in your work clothes and you just went somewhere private. Like, there you go. You go, girl. Yes.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your
Yeah.
question, but
Yeah. Well, it makes me think about also the ancestral piece, which, this is really where the territory that's been showing up a lot too with my clients. And there's so much that can happen when you go into this larger field of intelligence, which I know we both work with in different ways. And I also know that constellations work often has an emphasis in particular on ancestral work. I wonder if you could share a little bit about how you feel like that ties into this piece right now of filling in these missing gaps in
hmm.
culture and in what we're learning right now. I mean, I feel like it's just so obvious, and I'd really love to hear what you're learning and what you would share with people.
Yeah, I mean, I should say that I basically spent my 20s just healing, and my parents would say, are you ever gonna get a job? Are we ever gonna figure out what you want to be when you grow up? And I just went from,
Mm,
constellation workshop to constellation workshop, did a lot of my own inner work.
mm,
And I don't think I could handle the magnitude of the project if I hadn't done that. So I think there's steps to it. So you can't go from being not feeling safe and secure, let's put it that way, feeling
mm-hmm,
unstable to
mm-hmm.
being resourceful. There's steps, and there's definitely a healing
Yes.
within the individual. And also in my own,
Mm-hmm,
I can say that there's definitely been key elements to my healing, which constellations have definitely been a key element in the healing. But
mm-hmm,
there's a lot of other modalities that have their
mm-hmm,
place and time. So it is something. I don't think I guess what I'm trying to say is like there's no cookie cutter process. There's not like do this, and this, and this, and then you're gonna be healed type of thing.
mm-hmm,
But I
mm-hmm.
also want to say that there does come a point where you're done with, where it's good enough and where you're ready to try yourself in relationships and where it's not the end of the world when there is a little bit of a stepping on
Mm-hmm.
toes where you're starting to be more resilient and are able to resolve things and can come back together and learn to
Mm-hmm.
bond and create bonds and
Mm-hmm.
just
Yes.
steps.
Yes, you're talking a lot about like in my work, there's a shift from just building basic regulation and stabilization in the nervous system to actually being on a growth, like a post-trauma growth path, where you're still obviously continuing to regulate and stabilize. But on top of that, now there is, like you said, enough resilience in the system to take like larger and larger risks in life and just be like kind of playful with it
Mhm.
and to have a complete worldview where like mistakes are they really don't have the same effect of wounding as they did before. They're more just like, oh, it's simpler to bring them back to center. The piece that I think that I love, what I love, and I have not studied constellations, but I have experienced them several times. I really love this piece about the field because in my work, we talk about the field as well. We don't use that exact term, but I think it's the same thing. And I think lots of modalities tap into it. And even modalities that aren't modalities tap into this because it's something that's just an inherent living, breathing ecosystem reality that we're inhabited in. The way that it's coming now is to like I think a lot in terms of how we've lost animism in our world lately, like in the last couple thousand years, in which we've kind of become isolated and are objectified and how we think of ourselves as like little humans. It reminds me of what you said about looking down from heaven and being like me. There's like that was like such a playful and beautiful example, but of like how obvious it is that actually we do live in this sort of animate or multi-connected Indra's web
Yeah.
way. But I'd love to hear what you have learned over the years from studying different modalities and then also getting to a point of just channeling it through yourself in your own way. Like, what is the field and why is it really like the key for moving into a new paradigm of operating? Yeah.
Yeah. To me, the field is everything that is, right? Everything's energy. I love David Hawkins' stuff and Einstein, and they kind of explained it that everything's energy and things just vibrate at different frequencies, and that there's different there are different realities going on at the same time, depending, and you are in them depending on what your state of being is. So it gives us a lot of choice. Um, the field always is. So it's up to us to interact with it. And if I interact at a level of despair or anger, then that's kind of what I get back because there is energetic laws that govern this universe, just like also physical laws govern this universe, like gravity, right? So
Mm-hmm.
law of attraction just states that like attracts like. And then David Hawkins gave us the scale of consciousness. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but he
Mm-hmm.
basically calibrated vibrational states of being and correlated them to emotional states. So when I'm angry, I vibrate at a lower vibration than when I'm happy. Those are things that are measurable. They're really scientific. They're not just
Mm-hmm.
constructs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it gives us a lot of power in terms of, or for me, one of my biggest breakthroughs in my own life came by realizing how I had gotten myself into a total state of negativity. I had burnout and no money and going through a divorce and just bottom, everything bottom. And how we also have the power to some extent to get ourselves into better vibrational states of being. And it has to do with self-care, but also with healing and subconscious stuff. And so depending on where we're at, that's our life experience, and that what the field or life reflects back to us.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and
I was,
we can
yeah.
get information about anything, right? It just depends on which space we are in,
Yeah.
so how we
Yeah.
perceive it.
Yeah. And you've been working sort of with a conscious relating to life in this way for a long time, right? Since you were
Yeah,
very young.
yeah.
How, what was it that, was it something that you felt like just intuitively made sense from childhood, or was there anything that came into your life that like opened the door for you early on?
I did travel to Paraguay when I was 15 and experienced a totally different world because they were very poor. They lived in huts, but they were happy, and it was like mind blowing because they had nothing. and they were so happy. And I was 15 and I was supposed to go back to school, Waldorf High School, pretty good, you know. And
Mhm.
I had a total culture shock. I came back and I was like, there's no way I can just sit around and do nothing.
Mhm.
So I dropped out of high school. And I guess that was basically the decision, which then led me to just, since I dropped out of high school, I couldn't just go to university. I couldn't just study. I couldn't just, you know, with that decision basically made it so that I couldn't just go down a normal path, right? I couldn't, I was
Mhm.
wanting to be a doctor. I mean, I,
What was it about that experience that what was it that changed in you when you saw that situation that made you like drop everything that you were doing in life and change?
I just knew that I couldn't just spend my next 4 years sitting around in a school and do nothing. Like I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something to make the world a better place. I had no idea what that was going to be or look like, but I just knew that I could
Mm,
just not spend another day just sitting and absorbing
mm.
algebra, which I kind of knew I never would need in my life. Like, no,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to put
yeah.
anything in my brain
Yeah.
that's not useful for what I'm really wanting to
Yeah.
do.
It was like an early lesson in agency, really. Like, oh yeah, I'm
And
creating
and
my
I
life, and
I
I
have
don't
to say,
want that to be what my life looks like right now.
and I have to say, my mom's biggest complaint about me has always been, oh, she just does what she wants, you know. Yeah.
It's
And
funny
I'm
that
like,
that would
well,
be a complaint.
doesn't
Yes.
everybody?
And you doing what you want has led to some really amazing things. I mean, it's really inspiring what you have created already. And I know it takes time
Yes.
building a land project.
Yeah.
And I know we're skipping a little all over here, but how would you say that creating something that you like don't even technically have any like technical skill in like came out of this way of operating this kind of agency? Yeah, you're like, yeah.
Confidence, like the confidence, because I've been leading my life for so long, just in a call and response, in a sense where I know that I'm here to be of service.
Mm,
So I do have a practice of pretty much asking every day what the universe wants me to do. And there are
mm,
phases in my life where it's very clear because somebody comes directly to me and asks for help, or, you know, something isn't working and I know I need to help fix it
yeah,
or whatever. Sometimes it's very clear, sometimes it's not so clear. But I think it really comes from the mindset of, hey, I'm here to be of service and what needs to be done, who needs me today, what could I do?
yeah.
Sometimes it's just, I need to just rest also sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, this reminds me because I didn't know till recently that you also had a history with your health. And a lot of the people in my community have that, including myself as a part of my history. And
mhm,
so, how did that part play into everything? And maybe whatever you want to share, I know, it's
mhm.
wherever, however much feels like right to share, but like, um, I'm especially curious about how how you felt like what happened in the journey of your health or any like hardship or challenge you've had over the
Yeah.
time, how that became then like fuel or fodder for
Mhm.
this empowerment journey and transformation and creation and like following your dreams, kind of a life that you're living. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, up until 2012, I had a lot of time freedom, but was struggling with money. I did have my children by that time, which I really, really wanted, but I really was not. I was doing dishes and diapers basically, and I was very frustrated and got very burned out. And I had, I, I pretty much had a complete physical breakdown one day, and my soul just left my body and started hovering on. I mean, I left my body and I was hovering
Hmm.
to the ceiling, and I thought that was it. And then a voice said, "Your work isn't done," and I was sent back into my body. And for 1 week, I experienced complete peace. And I was like, and everything just manifested. Like I could think of something and it was just there because there was no
Mm.
in me. I was just completely present and grateful and open. And it was wonderful. It was amazing. It just gave me a taste for something. And it was very clear that I needed to start living life by what really felt true and good for me, and not so much by what everybody else needs and wants and what I should think I should be doing. And that had gotten me into this kind of very depleted state. And then after a week that state ended, and I was back to like my normal self. But then it really created a hunger for like, I need to figure out what I need to do.
Yeah.
I knew that part of the puzzle was to get myself into that state, into that peaceful, harmonious state with the universe. And so then
That's so,
David
yeah.
Hawkins started coming in.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
Also, Kevin Trudeau, he has I think it's still on YouTube. It's called Your Wish is Your Command.
mm.
These teachers about just universal laws, energy, intuition. I'm part of a group out of Florida, which we just talked about. They're called Image under Bob Samara. Um, I've started getting the right people to help me with helping me align my energy, and then also having constellations. And I, at that point, had trained people, so it was easy for me to get constellations. So it was a mix out of, but the biggest shift was I made my own energy and my own energy management a top priority.
Right, right.
So
And just to like give people some context,
yeah,
I hear about the piece about the burnout. Like, what was happening for like weeks or months or years, even like leading up to that, that you
yeah,
would say, oh, that was what was off in my health? And like, what were you experiencing that was
yeah,
keeping you away from that piece? Yeah.
yeah. I would literally not be able to go to sleep till like 5 in the morning, and then I would fall asleep for half an hour, and then the kids would be awake. So then I had to be up with them. I could not get off the couch. I couldn't open my eyes. I would lay on the couch just trying to get through the day. I could not walk even to the laundry and put the laundry in the laundry machine. Then around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I would get a little bit of a burst of energy, could get up and eat and do something. And then by 7 o'clock, the energy was gone again. And it was ready to go to, I was ready to go to bed, would go to bed and just racing thoughts and not being able to sleep. And that
Yeah.
went on for about 6 months.
Yeah. It's so interesting because what you're describing is a little bit of like, well, I mean, in neuroscience, that would be like functional freeze, but in sort of the language of soul and energy and shamanic healing, it just actually like soul loss. So I find it so interesting the way you describe that. It was like your soul left your body in that moment. I wonder, I wonder how you, because now you're talking about this feeling of like being in the 3D in your body in this way that's strong, physically moving. So would you say that, or would you describe almost your journey too of like moving from a place of outsourcing your power and almost like not having your soul and your body fully integrated to almost like a kind of awakening moment where you were able to just kind of see the whole picture for exactly what it was, and then you were handed the experience to like now learn how to operate in a really different way where everything was integrated? Or I'm just really curious how you think
Yeah,
about it. Yeah.
no, it was more about energy and realizing that there is high vibrational energy and low vibrational energy, and then
Mm,
figuring out what was making me feel better. So eating better, exercising better, separating from toxic people.
yeah.
Even though that was really scary, saying yes to the things that I wanted to do, even though that was scary, like
Like
becoming an
what?
entrepreneur, like going out. I'd never made any money, so I was in a
Uh-huh.
marriage where he was a provider, and I basically realized I had to get out of that marriage and not take any child support, not have any ties financially. So I
Mm,
basically just cold turkey said, I'm gonna go. I don't have any money, and I just needed to figure out how to make money, like overnight,
yes.
things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like,
Like allowing that alignment to be even more powerful than the old fears of based on survival and codependency. Yeah.
or then, I had 15 hours where my kids weren't with me, and I spent 10 hours just resting and pouring in myself, and 5 hours building my business, that rather than
Yes.
those 10 hours and hustling like crazy. So
Yes.
a lot of things
Yeah.
that you would think were counterintuitive.
Yes. Yes. And what came out of this massive reprioritization and energy reclamation? Like, how did your life change after that?
I mean, it was in a very short time. I got my energy back, not all the way. That took a little while, but I got my energy back. I started making money. I started working with clients. In essence, I went from not making money to making 360,000 in a year within like 3
Wow.
years of that, being in much better relationships, having all this stuff and, you know, complete
Yeah.
alignment.
Yeah. And the primary thing you attribute it to was like reclaiming your energy and then cultivating frequencies that were
making
more,
decisions based on what felt right and good to me,
yeah,
not in a instant gratification kind of way, but in like a this is what
yeah.
my soul wants, and I know that this is what my soul wants.
Oh, that's a really good question I want to have you speak to as well, because people wonder what's the difference? How do you tell when something is an instant gratification kind of pleasure or desire versus something that is gratifying
Yeah.
soul? Yes.
I think you see it based on your results, right? If you're just constantly doing something to make yourself feel good, but you're not actually taking any actions or making big leaps or making things happen, right? Then you're just coddling yourself and you're not really generating anything new, I think.
So, yeah, okay. I think you're speaking to the piece about taking aligned action, so
Mhm.
not just the visualization, but like when it comes to knowing whether something is coming from like maybe an old craving from a lower frequency
Mhm.
versus a soul desire that might, because you said something about it might not be instant
Yeah.
gratification. I wonder if you could speak to that piece about it not being instant and like, yeah,
Yeah.
that longer game. Yeah.
So let's say your goal is to get clients or whatever, and then what you keep eating ice cream on the couch. I mean, after a few days, you would realizing that you're nowhere closer to getting the clients unless getting eating the ice cream would really make you so happy that all of a sudden the clients would be flowing in. That's a possibility, right? But you would know after a short amount of time if what you're doing is actually the actual thing that helps you feel better or if you're
Hmm.
just
Hmm. Could you give an example of like something concrete so that we could follow like in that period of time where things started to turn around quickly?
um yeah, I mean, I had to, the best example is like leaving my marriage. If I would have, it would have
Hmm.
in some ways felt better to just be there and be provided for.
Hmm.
But then in the long run, it felt way better to be able to provide for myself. So even though that
Hmm.
was scary and a hard choice, it was still ultimately the choice that
Hmm.
felt more liberating or,
Hmm.
you know,
It felt more liberating.
and
Yeah.
empowering, I guess.
Yeah. 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 And how did when you said you started seeing clients, was it with the constellations work or was something else? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just so curious because I always find that like what especially as practitioners, like whatever we end up doing that then becomes a service is often also the thing that has helped us, move our
Yeah.
frequency or master our energy. Um, how in particular did that work help you to arrive at the new frequencies? Yeah.
Yeah, I did have several constellations just around my body and physicality, and um, when constellations are done right, there's nothing else to do after they just basically dissolve patterns and shift it. So I definitely had patterns around self-sacrificing that had to do with my feminine lineage that needed to be healed.
Mm,
I
mm,
definitely had a disconnection from my body where
mm,
and sensuality because I have
mm,
sexual abuse in my history, and it was very
mm.
confusing for me because my body in that moment actually kind of felt turned on, and it was very, it was very confusing.
Yeah. That's like that confusing
Yeah,
instant gratification that's not actually the soul. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So there was definitely some healing needed around that, and then I also started using the constellations in more innovative ways where you can use it to look at almost anything. So I started doing it for other people where I would look at what their business really wanted to be and who their clients really were, and then I trained my apprentices to do it for me.
Mm.
So I was able to get a lot of help from the constellations in terms of the field and to get my direction also.
Can you say something about that? Because it strikes me, especially the fact that you would train someone to do it for you. It sounds like there's also something about the level of objectivity
Yeah.
that's important in this channeling work. Could you say something about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with family constellations, since we're really making the subconscious visible, and since it's called the subconscious because it's unconscious to us, I believe that I cannot
Mhm.
access my own unconscious. I can see it. I can have a glance of what's going on by seeing what the results that I'm creating, basically, because our subconscious drives most of our
Mhm.
decisions. So I believe there's other modalities that we can use to clean up our subconscious for ourselves, but with constellation,
Mm.
I do believe that somebody else can do it better
Mhm.
for us. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. In a way, it actually speaks to our interdependence and our
yeah.
need for community and each other and even more. Yeah. Wow. And so, and this has really been the work that has like followed you for years through many different projects,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How has it, what about it has remained the same, as in like this is just so core and essential that it just follows, through every stage of life? And then what has shape shifted about the work over the years? Yeah.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I used it really to go into a niche. So I started out in women's empowerment and helping them with their businesses and just a lot of business coaching, including the constellations, which has given me an edge in that niche. And then I really felt like I wanted to challenge myself and prove to myself that I could make money in a niche that was not connected to making money. Plus, I have a huge passion for relationships, and my relationships at the time were going through, I was just learning a ton of stuff about relationships and tools and things. So then I started again and used the constellations mostly um, because I believe that, especially in couples work, it's very hard to get anywhere. And with the constellations allow you to kind of just be an objective tool that the people in the couple can see. And it's just proven to be highly effective. So I did that. And then a land project came along and demanded all of my attention. So in the land project, we have used it to help us make the decisions when there's problems, when we can't. I also trained my partner Tim, so we can do it together, which is really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've used it all. I had about 25 apprentices now, so um, and most of them are active. And so if I need sessions, I go to them. And whenever I get stuck, I go back to it and get a session. And like I use it as a
Yeah.
tool to help
Yeah.
me through
Yeah.
the sticky parts. Let's put it that way.
And you also, so you've used it in the traditional way,
Hmm.
which is like looking into family lineage healing,
Hmm.
but you've also used it in like creating future, not creating, but like tuning, well, I guess, yeah, creating future outcomes by tapping into the highest potential, for example, in partnership. And I'm
Hmm.
guessing you've also used it like when you say making decisions on the land, so you're also tuning into not just the human world, but also the more than human world, right? When
Hmm.
you have these conversations.
Yeah, the land
Yeah.
itself, and yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask this before because I want to ask you about, I know that you're starting a new training soon, which I'd love you to share about with
Mhm.
people. But you have talked about in some of your posts, for example, like making this work your own. And I think this is an important message in this time for whatever work someone
Mhm.
is doing. Like we're entering this really interesting astrological age where it's no longer about being under an institution, even if it's a holistic institution, but really like mm, integrating and evolving really rapidly, like how the work moves through us as channels. And I'm curious how, yeah, I mean, do you even call yourself a constellations facilitator?
Mhm.
What do you call yourself? Yeah. And how do you define yourself and how this is like uniquely coming through you as opposed to necessarily someone else who does constellations
Yeah.
work?
I've named it my own thing, and
Yeah.
I don't necessarily say that that's what it needs to be called, but I find family constellation is a very bad name and it doesn't describe what it really is, but it's gaining more popularity, so people have kind of a sense and a lot of people have heard good things about it. So I've thought about this for a long time, and my best description at this point is to call it intuitive quantum disentanglement, because the way I do
Mm.
it is I use my intuition, I go into the quantum field and I look for what's entangled with each other and I figure out how to entangle it so that everybody can be in their own place, and when people or everything can be in its own place, because that's when we are in our power.
Uh-huh. And probably that's also when we can get pure information, like
Yeah.
clear, unfiltered information about yeah, about
And then
each other.
and then there's always the question, what is ego and what is pure? And for me, from the get-go, I was trained as a psychotherapist very young at 20. And I always felt like, who am I to know anything for anybody? And I always felt a relief that I could just step into the field and the field would just know. So
Yeah,
I feel myself
yeah,
as a
yeah, yeah,
messenger.
yeah. Well, it strikes me too. I'm not surprised that like the shift when you came out of that marriage and into like making a lot of money
Yeah.
for the first time, that it was with helping women and their businesses, because what I'm hearing you describe is a way of, I wouldn't even use the word earning money. I would use it like inviting money or inviting resources from
Yeah.
a very different place than the hustle, like extremely different. And what I think you're describing is really operating in life that way, not just with making money or anything.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I had to learn it the hard way, right? Because of the burnout. I was like, there's no way I can keep going forward and pushing myself the way that I've been pushing myself. I need to find a different way. And
Mm-hmm.
and I lived in Santa Barbara. If I would have gone and gotten a job for $20 an hour and even and worked 10-hour days, I wouldn't have made ends meet. Like it was just something had to give, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so what is it like being in action? Because you did talk about the importance of action and
Yeah.
not just being passive, but what is it like being active in the world, doing things in the world, going down to Costa Rica, learning how to build an ecodome, starting a community? What is it how is it to do action in the world from this frequency state versus the state that leads to burnout? What's it like? Tell people what the experience is like.
You definitely need to have courage. You need to be willing to take risks. It is fun. It is fun for the most part. And it is in some ways like knowing that you're in an airplane and you're going 100 miles an hour and being okay with not see, you have to be okay with not seeing like you have to be okay with
Mm,
just
mm,
trusting and knowing that you'll know what turn to take. And so it forces you to be very present I can't dwell on the past. I can't dwell in the
yeah,
future too much.
yeah,
I mean, I can hold clear
yeah,
pictures, but
yeah,
be very present and focused and uh focused,
yeah,
in my daily life.
yeah.
Yeah.
So before you share about your offering, I would love to also bring in this beautiful piece that brought us together, which is the dream of Eco Village building.
Yeah.
And how long have you had that dream? And how did coming at it in this beautiful way you just described of being in movement and trust and so present that you're not clinging to the past or the future, like how tell us about your relationship with the land project in this energy mastery way. Yeah.
Yeah. My parents owned a farmhouse in France when I was little with some other people. And I think when I was very little, I always thought it would be so amazing if I could turn this into a hospital, because I felt very bad about how little kids, how sterile hospitals were. And I just felt like kids, when they're not doing well, they should be in nature and in this more natural environment, and then with the Waldorf background also. So I do think that planted a seed. And then my passion has been children and providing safe natural environments for them. So my kids went to Waldorf. I do have a Waldorf early childhood training. That's actually how I was able to immigrate to the States. And
Hmm.
then even when I went to my first high paid business mastermind, the woman was asking us like, what's the why? What's the why? And all I could think of was like the children. So,
Oh, oh, it's
that's
really been
definitely,
about the children this whole
yeah, it is
time.
about the children really.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And so how is the land project related to that? Tell us.
Well, it is for the children. It is for the
Yeah.
families. It is for the children. It is
Yeah.
for, and it's for also it's my inner child. My inner child is so happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
My inner
Yeah.
child is so happy right now. And yes, it's
Oh,
work, but like last week
yeah.
I got to walk around and pick up crystals, because there's little crystals, and I was like, oh my God, this is like heaven for my inner child. It's just having a blast.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. And what a beautiful example of this integration of the frequency, the high frequency, like the inner child, I think like allowing the inner child to be in that pure joy state. And then also the trust and courage of the adult that is like
And
breaking
I have to
through
say,
boundaries.
I am not doing this alone. I have a fabulous
Yeah.
partner family. There were pieces like I've been wanting to do this with, and I've tried it with different people and in different
Mhm.
relationships, and it didn't work. And then a big part of why I can do it now is because
Oh, wow.
Tim
Yeah.
and I got together, and we are in a really, I feel really stable and supported, and we really help each other. And
Hmm.
he's up for it, and
Yeah.
and
This
and
is
then and then
actually,
all the other people like like
mhm.
yeah, we've had a lot. We have had
Yeah.
and we continue to have a lot of support.
Yeah, I have to say too, like I am not someone that's quick to do something like invest in an ecodome with someone that I barely know. But I could tell just from the energy that you were holding and the invitation, this quality of it's both a like a real sincere passion and joy, but then there's also like a neutrality that I think is so key, right? There wasn't any sense of like, and I love what you said about the quantum disentanglement. I think I could feel that because this is part of what I'm learning about energy mastery too, is it's also there is no like subtle needing something from the other person, even though we do need community.
Yeah.
And there's a way to be in such a state of trust that the right people and the right things will come, that then in that moment, there is no clinging or like you said,
Yeah. And I
desperation.
mean, I do get attached to, I mean, it's been a learning curve because there've been definitely people that I've gotten attached to and then it doesn't work out. And, so it is
Yeah,
emotional
there's a
also.
lot of like the messy human part.
Yeah.
Actually, I really love that you brought up the piece about finding not just community, but like your partner before. And not that it has to go that way. I know some people who've like started and then found their partner, but how does someone know like when they're I mean, it's probably you probably just say, well, you just know. Like part of my work is also helping articulate this for people to inspire the seeds of new ways of thinking, to evoke the feelings. But how does someone know when, oh, yes, this is how it feels to be in partnership with a person who really can walk alongside me in a way that's empowering and expanding my dreams versus that's like your opposite experience before, like they're actually pulling away from your
Yeah.
dreams, even though they're giving you a paycheck or you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I think you really don't know until you have it. I luckily had a very brief experience with someone who was way older, and to him it was clear that we were just going to be together for a little while when I was way younger, and we had no arguments, and he was very respectful with me. So I had like a little glimmer in my path,
Mhm.
and then as I was working on really wanting to call it in for myself, in the image community that I'm in, I started having a group of people around me that are really functional that have been together for a long time. They're still in love and they're respectful with each other. And so I started seeing that it's
Yeah,
possible.
your nervous system could expand to
Yeah.
know by osmosis what it
Yeah.
felt like.
So
Yeah.
that was great. But then still, you can't really know it until you have it. Like,
But it's so fun because right as you're saying that, like this little like smile comes on, your energy just goes like, I
yeah,
mean, for you, what does it feel like being in knowing that you're in that kind of relationship now?
it does feel like everything that I've imagined, but it's real, where
Yeah.
it's easy, where we
Yeah.
have fun, where we could just talk about everything. When one of us melts down, the other one can be there. If we both melt down, then it's not a problem. The next day we just pick ourselves back up. Nothing is yeah. It's just good. It feels normal. It's like finally
Oh,
I can be like functioning
yeah.
in this world.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And only, said by the person who remembers before birth, like raising their hand to go down to earth. It's like finally normal.
Yeah.
Finally normal. I've been like going through all this abnormal and now it's finally normal. So beautiful. And I just have to say, like observing you though from the outside, like as soon as you start talking about it, like it's just so, so, so bright. Like
Yeah.
so clear.
Yeah,
And
I know.
that's why I wanted to work with you in this area of sacred partnership. Yeah.
Yeah, we do it together, We do it all together. We all need each other, and the men need us just as much as we need them. And we've all been, it's not them versus us, or we have been the greater victims, or men have gone, through horrendous things for years and
Yeah.
years, and women have, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. We're all trying to learn this quantum disentanglement so that we can
yeah.
just
And
respect and love
also,
each other.
like for Tim and I, we didn't have to be completely healed before we got together. Like
Yeah.
there's still things that he's working on that I have that's not an issue for me. And there's things that I'm working
Mhm.
on that are non-issues for him, and we work
Yeah.
with each other, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So one last question and then I'd love you to share like logistics of the offerings you have now for
Yeah.
people. But like what would you say? Actually, let's do that first because then we can end on like more of
Yeah.
a deeper question. So because I know you're offering something for around training people in
Yeah.
constellations and maybe also share what else you are offering too, because I think
Yeah.
I don't know if you're still offering sacred partnership consultations and then also anything you want to share about Turia
Yeah.
and what you're looking for there, but like just an open
Yes.
mic about what you're offering. Yeah.
Yeah. So generally, my skills are helping people create deeply bonded relationships or call in their sacred partner. And if somebody wants that help from me, I'm available. I'm not currently out there marketing that, but obviously it's one of my skill sets and I'm very good at it. And then with Turia, we are still looking for partners that want to possibly partner on the retreat center. That means either financially be in on it or financially be in on it and actually live there and be a practitioner there. So the project has a retreat center and it also has a village for living in. We're definitely looking for families that want to be part of the village that either do a work exchange or bring in some money or a mix of both. Um, yeah, so or just money supporters for the project. We have people that just support us with money and give us loans and we pay them back and make them try to make them a good return on their money. And then for me personally, since what I've learned is that with this project, you can't force it. So I have some space and time to actually go back to what I also love doing, which is training people. So I am starting a year-long, it's a little bit more of an advanced training. So for people that have done constellations or have been immersed in the constellations and think that they could be really good or want to be really good at it, but they feel insecure about it or just want a little bit more training. My gift is really with my apprentices to provide a space where they can play and find their voice and become the best facilitator that they can be. And also that will then translate into money because the reason why I was able to make that money was because I knew I was really good at constellations by that time. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
And how can people find you? And by the way, you can send me something afterwards that I
Yeah.
can post, but yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, right now the best way to find me is actually on Facebook and just message me personally on Facebook because
That's
everything
great.
else is
Yeah.
under construction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So maybe like as a closing share, like what would you say to anybody who is um working on building their trust muscle? Maybe they're getting glimmers of this feeling of, yes, I can co-create my life, but there's still a lot of doubt and they keep falling maybe back into like
yeah.
doing things as usual. How to like sustain the flame? Like what kind of words of hope and inspiration and would you give? Yeah.
I would definitely say if you can listen to the Kevin Trudeau stuff, there's community around that. If you can be part of Image, do that. Like the communities around, um,
Mhm.
be mindful who you listen to and find the people that have what you want and but also came from where you came from.
Mhm.
Right, and start surrounding yourself with people that want the same things and uh,
Mhm.
create a bubble around yourself. And then, like I said,
Mhm.
really, realize that we have power. We don't have power over other people. We don't have power over our outer circumstances, but we do have power over our own state of being. And
Mhm.
so the two resources I just shared, they are hugely valuable in helping you make your own vibrational management the top priority, because that is where our power lies. Like that's where we
Yeah.
have power,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
ownership.
I'm hearing two really beautiful things in combination. The power that we have in working with ourselves and our frequency, and the power we have in connecting with community that can train our nervous system to believe that it's possible here on the earth in life right now in our physical experience,
Yeah.
and how important that is to have both. Yeah, so beautiful. Any last words or sharings you just feel inspired to share that I haven't asked about or that you'd like to say before we wrap?
Yeah, I would say that if you have a desire for something, whether it's that sacred partner or it's a project or it's, whatever it is, if you have a desire for something, there is a spiritual law called the law of polarity, I think is what it's called. But it basically states that you could not have a want for something if that want wasn't meant for you in an existence. So knowing that really helped me so much in going through everything, because it meant that I wasn't stupid, I wasn't crazy. When the outside world will call you crazy for wanting these things. But if you know within yourself that it is a true desire, based on that desire, you can know scientifically that it is proof that you are on one side of the spectrum and this thing is on the other side of the spectrum, and you're just working on closing the gap.
Yeah, that
So
was a beautiful, beautiful note to end on. Yeah. Um, yeah, it makes me think of like so much about just like mystery school teachings and hermetics and teachings about reality and teachings about the nervous system and how to expand it. And it's like, if even a small part of you is aware of that something is possible, like even that is still like a small percentage of what's possible because
yeah,
there's so much
yeah,
beyond.
the picture that I like to give people is like your ideal life is like a planet, and you have an umbilical cord that's connected to it. So you're the only one that can navigate yourself there. Yes, with
Mm,
help of others, but you're inherently connected. And as long as you follow the breadcrumbs and follow that
mm,
pull, you are
yeah.
going to end up there.
Mm.
And on the way, it's gonna get better and better and better and better. And hopefully, it's gonna get better and better and better until we leave this planet, you know?
Yeah, and what a beautiful picture you just painted of like the yin yang feminine masculine dance too, because it's like as much about the pleasure of the journey as it is about arriving, and
Yeah,
both are so important.
yeah.
Mm. Oh, thank you so much for sharing this and sharing your wisdom with everybody.
Thank you.
And we'll have a link for how to connect with you below.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.